I'm Jessica, a 25-year-old who mostly keeps to herself. Even though I have a job and my own studies, my family might think I don't because I rarely talk about it, especially not with my brother. How did I end up like this? It all goes back to my time in middle school, when I first started feeling like I couldn't trust people. It wasn't just one thing, mostly, it was the feeling of being ignored. People didn't seem interested in me, maybe because I was always more into machines and computers. I loved tinkering with computers, and I was pretty good at it, which was helpful around the house. But my grades started to slip because I was spending more time with computers than with friends, and my parents became worried. Once I finished elementary school, they started telling me off, saying I should spend less time with machines. In middle school, the scolding became more frequent, and I began to feel like I shouldn't pursue my interests. So, whenever I had free time, I'd hide away in my room to avoid their lectures, shutting myself off from the outside world. This only made people think I was even stranger, and I felt more isolated. The one person who understood me was my brother, Jake. He was always supportive, knowing how to cheer me up when I felt down. With his help, I managed to finish school. I didn't go to high school though. Instead, I started taking small computer jobs from home. When I was around 16, I got a part-time job, and with the money I earned, I bought old computers to take apart and rebuild just for fun. That hobby turned into a small business, and by the time I was 20, I was building and selling computers on my own. Soon, I started a business selling affordable computers, and it gained a lot of attention. By 25, I'd made a decent income. I was even able to contribute $2,500 to my parents' household every month while still having money left over. I tried explaining my job to my parents, but they didn't quite understand. Eventually, we agreed that as long as I could support myself, they wouldn't interfere in my choices, so I could live as I pleased at home. Things didn't go as smoothly with my brother. He had been my biggest supporter in school, but over time, he grew distant. Maybe he got tired of his sister still living at home, tinkering with machines, even after turning 20. His attitude toward me became colder, and we started arguing more. When he got married, things worsened. His wife, who knew of me only from his stories, wasn't interested in being close, and it felt like she only pushed my brother further away. Because of this tension, I became known as the troublemaker in the family, even though all I'd done was stay true to my interests and live a quiet life. I spent most of my time in my room, feeling my heart break from the hostility directed at me. The warmth of my parents' home had vanished, replaced by an uncomfortable tension. What once felt like a safe sanctuary now felt cold and unwelcoming. Even though I had my own income and contributed to household expenses, my brother and sister-in-law, who didn't understand my work, viewed me as a burden. They even started talking about kicking me out so they could take over the house. Feeling disconnected from my brother and his plans, I began thinking that moving out wouldn't be so bad. If I had my own place, I wouldn't have to contribute here anymore, and I could save that money instead. It was a small silver lining. But just as I was considering it, my brother brought up the topic of inheritance. He believed that my parents' comfort came from their own wealth, not realizing it was my contributions that allowed them to live comfortably. He suggested that since he and his wife would take care of mom and dad, they should inherit everything, and I should give up my share. The truth was, without my support, my parents would struggle financially. Despite my decision to leave, I decided to give my brother one last chance. "Are you really okay with me leaving?" I asked him. He just laughed and said, "We'd be happy if you left already." His response made it clear how little he understood. I felt sorry for him and his wife, which only strengthened my resolve to move out. In the days that followed, their efforts to push me out only intensified. They knocked on my door constantly, convinced my mom to stop cooking for me, and told me to do my own laundry, things I'd need to do if I lived alone anyway. I wasn't going to let them take my place without a fight. They seemed to forget that I wasn't someone to just quietly walk away. I decided to leave a little surprise for them, a trap that would activate once I was gone. After finding a new place, handling all the arrangements, and packing up, I was finally ready to leave. Before walking out, I left a note for my parents and brother. I've been supporting this family all along, and you've forgotten everything good I've done. I hoped most of my time in my room, who the real burden on our family's finances was, directed at me, but they didn't seem to take my parting words. The warmth of my parents' home had vanished, replaced by an uncomfortable tension. For a moment, but they brushed it off. What once felt like probably a safe sanctuary my brother to handle things and unwelcoming. I knew they wouldn't take me seriously, even though I had my own income, but for now, contributed I felt to household expenses. Things as they were. My brother and sister-in-law, who didn't understand my work from the family me as a burden, and purchased what I needed to set up my new place. They even started talking about kicking me out. I decorated it exactly to my taste, creating a feeling disconnected from my brother and his plans. I began thinking living that moving out would out to be far less intimidating than I'd imagined. If I had my own place, in fact, I wouldn't have to contribute here anymore, and I could save that money instead. My new neighborhood was friendly, and life felt more peaceful and fulfilling. But just as I was considering moving out, my brother brought myself wondering how my family was managing without my financial support. He believed that my parents' comfort came from their own wealth. Out of the blue, not realizing it was my contributions that allowed them to live comfortably. Did you do something to the computers and electronics? He and his wife would take care of mom and dad. What do you mean? They should inherit everything. I replied, and I should give up my share. There's something wrong with them. The truth was, without my support, I paused. My parents would struggle financially. I used to fix things for free, despite my decision to leave. But since I was kicked out, to give my brother one last regular rate. Are you really okay with me leaving? That's pretty greedy. I asked him. We're your parents. He just laughed. You give us a discount? We'd be happy if you left already. I tend to give discounts to people who treat me well. How little he understood. Fine. I felt sorry for him and his wife, then abruptly which only strengthened my resolve to move out. She even sent a spiteful email in the days that implying that I was selfish and that push me out like me end up friendless. They knocked on my door constantly. I had simply reverted to all the custom settings I'd made back to do my own laundry, things I'd need to do if I lived alone anyway. It might look like a malfunction. I wasn't going to let them take my place without a fight. They contact the manufacturer for repairs. They seemed to forget that I wasn't someone to just quietly walk away. I decided to leave a little surprise for them. My dad called, that would activate once I was gone. I hate to ask, after finding a new place, lend me some money? Handling all the arrangements, what do you mean, packing lend you money? I was finally ready to leave. I asked. Before your brother out, and his wife left a note for my parents and brother. Rich. I've been supporting this family all along, us for money and to buy things everything good I've done, he explained. Why are you coming to me? I've heard of children supporting their parents out of generosity, but shouldn't it be the other way around? It's not that simple, he said. Even $500 would help. I'm not giving you anything, I replied calmly. If you need computer repairs, I'll gladly help as a paid service. Wow, you've really become stingy, he muttered, echoing things my mom had said about me. The conversation reminded me that they still saw me as that burden from years ago. I hung up, feeling even more certain I'd made the right choice by stepping away. I spent my family would realize who the real burden my family's finances was, directed at me. Though they didn't seem to take my parting calling multiple times had vanished, which replaced by an irritable tension for a moment. A few days later, felt like a safe sanctuary. My brother felt cold and unwelcoming. He finally asked, I knew they wouldn't, even though I had my own income, but for now, I felt it was best to leave things as they were. My brother and sister-in-law, my monthly contribution to my work from the family as a burden, and been a big what I needed to set up my new place. Talking about kicking me out. I decorated it exactly to my home was my sanctuary, creating a feeling disconnected and my brother and his myself. I had no reason living alone out would out to be so bad. I couldn't understand why if I had my own place, I wouldn't have to contribute here anymore. And when my parents' finances began to suffer, and life my brother asked me to come back, but I replied but firmly, just as I was considering moving out, my brother found myself wondering how my family was managing without my financial support. I told him I didn't want any involvement out of the blue, not realizing it was my contributions that allowed them to live comfortably. Did you do something to the computers and electronics myself would take care of mom and dad? What do you mean? They should inherit everything. I replied I should give up my share. There's something wrong with them. The truth is, I got married to someone in the same line of work. My parents would struggle financially. I used to fix things for free, despite my decision to leave. I had decided to give my brother to pay my regular rate. Although I'd considered reconnecting with my family, that's pretty greedy. I asked him. We're your parents, he just let you give us a discount and be happy if you left already. I tend to give discounts to people who treat me well how little he understood. I hired a private investigator and his wife, then abruptly which only strengthened my resolve to move out. She even sent a spiteful email. My parents implying that I was $100,000 like me and various lenders. Desperately trying to maintain their
lifestyle.
I had convinced my brother all the custom
settings
settings I'd
and
made
told
back
me
to
to
do
do
my
my
own
own
laundry,
family home,
things I
as
need
someone
to do
unfamiliar
and
with
now
alone anyway.
it might
It
look
might
like a
look like a
home once
malfunction.
stood.
I wasn't going to
There
let
was
them
only
take
when
my
I
place
suggested
without a
they
fight.
contact the
I felt
manufacturer.
they
They
seemed
seemed
to
to
forget
that
that
I
I
wasn't
wasn't
someone
someone
where
to
I
just
quietly
quietly
walk
walk
away.
away.
I also recognized it was
I
a
decided to
consequence
leave
of
their
my
choices
new
life
life
for them.
My
A
dad
trap
called,
that
but
was
without
sounding
to
his
my
once I
brother's
was gone.
situation.
I hate to
After
ask,
finding
he
a
and
new
his wife
place
were in the
and
midst of
handling
all the
messy,
arrangements.
drawn-out
What do you
divorce.
mean?
Packing
Lend
up.
you money.
I was finally
My brother
ready to
had
leave.
wanted a
Asked,
separation
because
before
of
her
her
extravagant
brother,
spending
I left a note
habits,
for my
sending
parents,
letters
and he
and
vehemently
I've
opposed
been
it.
supporting
They're
their
always
family
all
and
along for
refusing
money
to
and
lend
buy
me
things
things
and
everything
take
good
trips.
I've done.
Their
He explained.
finances were strained, and
Why
the
are you
divorce
coming to me?
process had dragged them both
I've
into
heard of
deep
children
financial
supporting
hardship.
their parents out of generosity.
In addition,
but
it
shouldn't
turned
be the
out
other
that
way
my brother
around?
was nearly infertile.
It's
making
not
it
that
unlikely
simple,
he'd
he said.
ever have children.
Even $500
My parents
would help.
who had hoped for grandchildren
I'm not
were
giving you
devastated,
anything,
and the
I
family
replied
drifted
calmly.
further apart.
If you need computer
Meanwhile,
repairs,
my
I'll
own
gladly
life was
help
filled with
as a paid
happiness.
service. My husband
Wow,
and I have
you've
4
really
children,
become stingy,
a dog,
he
and
muttered,
a spacious
echoing
home we've
things
made
my
our
mom
own.
had said about me.
We're living the life
The
my family
conversation
once dreamed
reminded
of.
me that they still saw me
Knowing
as
that if they
burden
learned
from
about our
years ago.
situation, they might
I
try
hung
to
up,
exploit it.
feeling even
I
more
decided
certain
to
I'd
officially
made the right
restrict
choice
access
by
to my
stepping
personal
away.
information and asked my husband not to pursue contact with my family. He was understanding, and we haven't spoken about it since. Perhaps, one day, once things settle down, there might be room for reconciliation with my family. But for now, I feel at peace keeping my distance and focusing on my life and the family I've built.